Sorry for the delay, guys. Took a while for the delivery driver to find a way to meet us up in the sky.
Maybe next time we should park the ship on the ground so they don't have to travel so far. Or so vertical.
Yeah, we could park the canvas. But this way, delivery takes over 30 minutes, and we get the hot Zaz for free. Haha! Alright, we got pizza, drinks. Oleti, what are we starting off with for game night?
I was thinking about a couple rounds of Puyo Puyo Tetris to get us going.
We could, but you always beat us in that game.
I know. That is why I would like to play it.
How about we play some Jackbox Party Packs? I think I'm finally getting a handle on how to type on a touchscreen with my metal hands.
Maybe. I prefer playing the packs with 4 or more players. 3 players just makes a lot of the games less interesting. We could play Clone Hero.
The Guitar Hero / Rock Band fan game?
And watch you struggle to connect 3 wireless guitars for an hour? No thank you. Let me see if I can find something better in your Steam library. Hang on. What is the first Godot game? Calvin, did you make this?
Wait, no, you don't need to look at that.
Calvin, what is this?
Is this just a menu and a 3D model?
Yes, but it was going to be more than that when I was working on it.
Was? When did you make this?
A lifetime ago.
Uh-oh, he's getting weird and wistful again.
Yep, I say we have approximately 1 minute until he makes this creative crisis an episode topic.
No, I'll be fine. Seeing that abandoned project just reminded me of when I tried to make video games.
Oh, you wanted to make video games? Wow, that was a lot earlier than you thought.
Actually, I was factoring in the intro before the episode topic begins.
Yep, there it is.
Hello! My name is Calvin, and welcome aboard the airship we call the Canvas. If you're joining us from last episode, you know that this is the place where we go on our pen sword adventures, looking at different media, analyzing them, breaking them down, and coming up with how we'd make our own. If you're new here, then, well, sorry for what you're about to experience. This isn't your usual development log video if you were looking for that. I just hope you'll stay with me long enough to get to the game development part of this episode. I promise I'll keep the skits and character shenanigans to a minimum until we get there.
Hey!
Not yet. Let's rewind a bit. Hello, my name is Calvin, and I am a wannabe game developer. I don't think that's too outlandish or unique a statement, especially for those who enjoy and appreciate the medium of video games. Games, more than most other mediums I'd argue, encourage the audience to be creative in the medium, with settings, options, and playstyles to tweak them to better serve the player's interests. With film, music, and literature, your options are limited to just starting and stopping. Maybe also going faster or rewinding, but that's nothing compared to video games. You have the real top-level options like match timers or control settings, but there's also the moment-to-moment options. What weapon will you use for this fight? Which path will you take on this racetrack? Will you save everyone, or completely fail the run for the 100th time? Whether you're enjoying what the game developers made, or not, your brain constantly runs thinking, I like that choice, or I wish they let me do this. At least, that's how I experience games. With that train of thought always going in my head when I'm playing, it's no surprise that since I was young, I wanted to make video games of some shape and form. And eventually, I tried. Look, my history of making video games is nothing spectacular, and I want to get to where I'm at now, so I'll try to keep this next segment snappy and nonchalant. In elementary school through middle school, I occasionally use the simple drag and drop coding software Scratch to make little games here and there. I was able to modify someone's Pong clone, so naturally, my next step was learning how to make iPhone games. My dad and I would watch Stanford iOS programming lectures before bed for many nights, and I barely understood what was happening. But it got the idea of coding rattling in my brain at an early age. This led to high school, where I convinced the school's IT person to install the game-making software Unity onto my school-issued laptop, under the promise that I was going to use the software to make an educational, massively multiplayer online game where teachers could upload their curriculums to the game and essentially create an open-world 3D role-playing game study guide. I was not able to make an educational, massively multiplayer online game where teachers could upload the curriculums to the game. But I was able to make a little local multiplayer first-person arena battle, which was neat. 2 players, 1 keyboard, played it before band practice. It was great. I kept making little, barely functioning prototypes through college, where I then made this top-down action game for 2 players that I used to demo my wooden and welded metal tabletop arcade machine for my 3D final. I went to an art college. It worked barely long enough for the final presentation. Starting in the summer of 2019, I began to enter game jams, small game development competitions where contestants have short time limits, often 48 hours, to make a video game with a theme. My first entry into the Game Maker's Toolkit Game Jam was Player Turn, a role-playing game with turn-based combat where you only have 1 turn to defeat each enemy you encounter. The game also didn't fully load when I originally uploaded it. Future jams went better, but not by much. The games became more playable and generally more well-constructed. I even collaborated with some friends on a few. But my personal game dev chops never resulted in something I'd be proud to show off or continue outside of the context of short game jams. Every now and then, I would reopen the Unity application and attempt to get another project started. But I would always run into the same issues that we'll come back to later. My most sincere attempt was in the summer through fall of 2023, when I tried to make a great menu and multiplayer template. Basically, not focusing on making a game, or even having a game in mind, making sure I had a well-constructed main menu you could navigate before entering a game. I got it to a pretty stable point where I was ready to actually start designing a game to be opened from the menu. Then the morning after, Unity's management announced a new pricing policy that charged per download of games made with the software. And, combined with other ongoing issues, led to everyone kind of losing faith in the company and engine. It was a whole thing. The management has since changed around. They reversed the runtime fee. Look, if you're curious, I encourage you to do research on the situation that went down and where it is now. I don't want someone to watch this episode 20 years from now, whenever now is, and have these old events taint their view. Regardless, after the brouhaha, I switched over to the game engine Godot. An engine whose name is spelled like this, and is pronounced about any way you can imagine. Anyway, switching to Godot was a bit of a transition, but I was able to make that new menu template Oledi discovered earlier. It worked great. I could connect multiple controllers, move between menus, ready up. It was a great starting point for beginning a new game. Then I got a new job that took most of my attention, and I had to throw the game dev dream aside again. But I don't want to throw the dream aside. Look, I know I don't need to be a master of all trades. I could just double down on being an animator and have that be the medium I express myself with. But for me, I want to be a game developer not necessarily for artistic expression, but because I see gaps in the gaming landscape and in the game developer community. Most prominently and personally, local multiplayer games. Local meaning all on one TV, in one location, not online. And multiplayer meaning multiplayer. Mario Kart, Mario Party, Super Smash Bros., indie games that don't star Mario and friends. I love these kinds of games, and not enough people are making them. Also, not enough people are talking about how they are made. You can search for nearly any video game design topic, game, or series online, and you'll find at least one well-made video on that subject, if not a whole channel dedicated solely to it. Local multiplayer design, however, not as much. I could fill both gaps, games and discussion, by making the local multiplayer games that I wish existed and then talking about the design I research and implement. I could be simultaneously making the games I want to play and encouraging others to make more of them. My local multiplayer game cup could runneth over. Okay, I've talked myself back into it. I'm going to give game development one more shot. So how do I give game development one more shot? I don't want to pull a game dev YouTuber move and announce something like, I'm making my dream game, right in the title of a video. And within a month, I'm either burnt out, not knowing what I'm doing, or committing so hard that I spend the next 5 years just trying to finish a project, in which I still don't know what I'm doing. No. I believe you learn so much by finishing a project. You know what a similar project will require to finish, know what you can do better next time, and more. And currently, I'm not at a stage where I know what making a full game entails. If I want to reach the point where I can eventually pull a, I'm making my dream game, then I need to strengthen my skills by fully completing a smaller game, or games, that let me learn how to approach the larger dream games. I technically have made some smaller games, those jam games I mentioned earlier. But, while helpful, the rules of the jams often meant I was making something with the goal of completing something for the jam's theme, making it as original as possible, and not making something as a stepping stone for a larger game. Like, for instance, in real games, it's better to make your game in such a way that menus in the game itself are separated into different environments. But, for a jam, I'd often just pile everything into one environment and have everything load all at once, just because making a loading system to separate them out would have taken too much time. Similarly, I'd make my games in a way that was fast, but not easy to build onto or work on for weeks. Plus, I'd made most of my jam games in Unity, and now I'm using Godot, which will require me to relearn a lot of skills. What I need is the speed and size of a jam game, but tailor-made to sharpen my skills for my game development aspirations and goals. Those goals in this case being... I could easily have this be a thing where I just code a Pong game in an afternoon. Here, look, I made Pong. But did I learn anything? Will this help me to make larger games? Maybe slightly, but I need to strive for more for this to be a worthwhile exercise. I have many games I want to make eventually in the future, but many of them share similar elements I should probably learn to do early. Oledi?
What up?
Could you start a list of elements I want to put in this jam game?
Oh, so now you have time for character shenanigans.
Sorry for saying that. Now can we make a list?
You will owe me a match of Puyo Puyo Tetris later, but sure.
Great. Now, right off the bat, my most universal element that will be in nearly all the games I want to make is local multiplayer. I love me some single-player games. I love online-only games, but I believe I have something to offer the local multiplayer sphere. So I should probably figure out how to make a game with at least 4 players in it. How do I connect controllers, let them navigate menus, have them play together, and so on. Next up, I want this to be an arcade arena game. Story-based games, be they open world or linear, are great, but I want to focus on something I can infinitely replay with friends for this project. So I want something more like Halo multiplayer, with its matches and maps, than Halo Campaign, with its levels and scripted story. Following that train, I need to keep this game small, but I want there to at least be 2 quote-unquote arenas for players to choose between. Prioritizing content when I don't even know how I'll be interacting with said content is stupid. But my previous jam games ran into this issue of having one environment the game had to start in for the game to function. I need to learn how to separate the gameplay from its components, like the characters and environment, and forcing myself to make something like map switching in this game will ensure that the game does not rely on being set up delicately in one scenario to function. The next big thing I want to tackle with this game is making the game flow really well from menus to game. That means starting from the game being closed, to the main menu, to the game starting, to the game, to someone pausing, back to the game ending, to the results screen, back to the main menu, to the game closing. My previous games have really struggled with that flow, both in the final project, but also in development. In order to test a new mechanic, I practically have to start the game from the main menu, get all the way to the new thing I'd want to test. What I need is the linear flow for the finished game, but a free-form flow for development that would let me jump into gameplay anywhere in the game. And lastly, I want this game to be 3D. Not much to say on that, I just think it'll be good to know how to make 3D game assets and bring them into the game with animations and textures and everything. Well, I think that's about everything I need to include in this guy. I'll give myself a deadline of, let's say 48 hours of work. Not all in a row, including sleeping and eating. Just the clock running whenever I'm working. 48 non-consecutive hours. With this list of goals, I can't see anything I'm overlooking that'll prevent me from finishing this game. Alright, now time for game development. See ya!
So, what do we do while he's making a game?
We should probably interact with the viewer, but I kinda just want to play Puyo Puyo Tetris.
How about we do like a minute of viewer interaction, then we can play?
I like it. Let's do it. Sup, nerds? RF and I are going to get you caught up on the words and concepts that make game making get made. Forget watching a bunch of YouTube tutorials made by European men with thick accents. This is the only training you will ever need. A lot of this you may already know, but at least we'll all be on the same page. Take it away, Robo-Frog.
Alright. There's a lot of words that get thrown around when people talk about game development. So here's some big ones you should probably know. Game engine. A game engine is the software that's set to make video games. There are a lot of engines out there, each specializing in making certain kind of games with their tools and structure. Unreal Engine is usually used for visually intense third-person games. Unity is good for 2D and 3D games on everything from high-end personal computers to mobile phones. Godot is a lighter weight engine often suited for 2D and sometimes 3D. Many more public engines are out there for anyone to try at different price points. But certain companies also have their own private engines like Capcom's RE engine or EA's Frostbite. Or a single developer might make their own engine. The engine doesn't define what a game can be. You can make a 2D platformer in Unreal, or a technical showcase in Godot. The engine just gives the tools, and those tools can make making some games easier or harder.
Words 2. Code. Code is the instructions the programs follow to make the game happen. Code tells the computer, game system, phone, or whatever how to take a bunch of numbers, connect them, and put them on screen. The code tells the system to then color it and light it a certain way, to animate it, to move it when the player presses a button, and on and on. Everything you see in a game is made of code. Depending on the engine the game was made with, the developers may not have written all of that code, instead using a visual coding tool or just dragging in files spit out by other programs. But at a deep level, all games operate on code.
Code can be a scary concept, as it can look like someone is writing in a different language. Because they are. Programming languages are what you humans use to tell computers how to do tasks you want them to do. Programmers write out the words in a way we understand with little reading, and the computer interprets it to do things at the deepest level of the machine. There are a ton of languages out there, and are similar to engines, and then each one has their own strengths and weaknesses. You have JavaScript and HTML for web stuff. Java itself is a good computer language. C#, Objective-C, and C++ are all in the same family of languages, but with their own quirks and approaches. Python gets used in a lot of applications. Rust and Ruby are newer languages with big fans. Godot has its own language called GDScript that takes some elements from Python and the C languages. And there are still so many more. Wow.
Do not let the amount scare you though. If you know how to program in one language, you know how to program in another. You just need to learn what nuances that language has.
It is like driving one vehicle and then another. You need to learn the rules of the road that apply to everyone. But once you know how to drive a car, you can drive a different car of a different year and model. Because most of the fundamentals are the same, the differences are in the details. For programming, do not be intimidated by the details. Here are the fundamentals nearly every program operates on. Functions and variables. A function is an instruction, and a variable is a bucket. You store something in a variable, like a number, a word, an image, true or false. Then you have a function do something with that variable. You can have it increase the number in the variable, have it put the word on screen, recolor the image, do something else if the variable is true, and nearly infinite more things.
How a given language wants you to write its function in variables varies, but they are all just made up of different types and ways to write functions and variables.
If you're someone who wants to get into programming, there are a lot of great tools out there to learn the basic structure. Calvin started out with the program Scratch, and in the many years since he's used it, Scratch has become a fully usable online programming program. You can make your own games just by dragging blocks together. It's great to get started, and it's completely free as of this episode's premiere. It is a general audience tool, but do get parents' permission before getting in there if you are a youth, of course.
Yeah, you never know what inappropriate those are out there could be making on the internet. Gotta be careful.
And thus concludes our crash course on game development. We will not be taking any questions at this time. Thank you.
Game time?
Yep. I wonder if Calvin is doing well with his game dev challenge right now.
Good morning, Robo-Frog.
Morning. Hey, it's been a bit since we've seen Calvin. Do you think he's gotten very far in his project?
Probably. I'll go check.
You may enter.
Hey, Calvin. How's your game coming along?
See for yourself. I uploaded my game to the Steam library.
Calvin, this is nearly the same game as your first Godot project. How long have you been working on this?
24 hours.
Oh, Calvin, no.
Oh, yes, Oledi. You heard me right. I spent half my time working to make nearly the exact same gosh darn menu I made nearly a year ago. And here's why. That first Geo.dot project from a year ago was great. I was proud of what I learned and all the improvements I had made to the engine systems to get them to work better in a multiplayer context. However, over the past year, I had forgotten nearly everything I had learned and wasn't able to understand how my own code worked. So I scrapped it, started fresh. This did give me the opportunity to improve on things, however, namely the user interface, or UI for short. Godot's built-in UI systems are great for single-player games. They let you quickly navigate with a mouse and have a nice function called Grab Focus that lets you select a UI element with a keyboard or controller. However, these systems only expect one player to be using them at a time, meaning they do not account for two input devices trying to navigate their own separate menus. If you have a mouse, you can click on any button on screen, and only one button in the entire game can be focused by a keyboard or controller at a time. For my own system, I fixed that with my new menu. Modifying a community-made plugin for easier multiple controller inputs, I can now have players join in with an input method, all share control of certain menus, and have exclusive access to others. That's not all I did. I also learned how to style my UI elements with themes. Now my buttons look nice, and not as much like the default Godot elements. I also did a lot of stuff that's going to save me time later, like on-screen input prompts that change depending on your controller, audio settings that save and load, a loading screen to go from the main menu to the game, a pause screen, and more. So adding all of that is partially what took up so much of my time. But the other part is this: my enemies.
Calvin, what enemies are you talking about?
Oh, they're everywhere. The engine's little quirks, for one. I mentioned the struggles with the UI only being built for one player, but there are other struggles too. Buttons have a text field on them. This, however, is a basic label. It only displays any basic text that you can make with a basic keyboard. Basically, it does not support the inline formatting BB code that I need in order to add the input prompt images to the button, meaning I need to manually add a special rich text label to each button I want to put a prompt in. Rich text labels, however, do not let you just change vertical alignment like regular labels. Instead, need to be formatted with special tags. It's that kind of stuff I was dealing with throughout. But my most powerful enemy is me. Throughout these first nearly 24 hours, I rounded up, I kept doing little things that were not necessary at the moment, but I thought would be helpful later. I don't have any video settings, but I made a tab for it. I don't have audio yet, but I made sliders to adjust audio levels. I don't know what the controls for my game are going to be, but I went ahead and made a giant database of every possible input on keyboard, mouse, and controller, and a way to pull images of said input to use as an on-screen prompt, along with variants for specific controller variations like how the PlayStation 4 controller styles its option button differently from how the PlayStation 5 controller does. I accounted for all of that, and all my game has is a menu with a play button that leads you to an empty void of floating cubes. Now, some of this is important to get in. I added that video tab because I know I'll need it later, and I needed to make sure my custom UI system could support tabs. But I keep trying to work under that mindset of, it sucks now, but I will need it later, so I might as well get it done now, because once it's done, it's done. I spent so long on that input database just entering every single possible keyboard input with that mindset. Yes, it sucks to type out all of these key names. However, now if a player uses the yen key for jump, I can put that image on screen. But as I was typing in these key names, I kept getting prompted by GoGoDot's autocomplete to fill out the names. Meaning somewhere, it has a list that I could have pulled from. But I didn't dig deeper into that because I was so deep in my mindset that stopping to research a different option wasn't a possibility. That's also how I ended up making the menu first before even deciding on a game to build on top of. Because if I get the menu done, I don't have to worry about what happens when I load out of a game, what happens to my connected controllers, what menu do you load into, that kind of thing. That, I think, will be beneficial. But I just don't know because I haven't finished a darn game before. Ugh. All right, back to it. Now to make an actual game. See ya! It's done! Lady and gentle frog, I'd like to show you the fruits of my labor. A local multiplayer, block-dropping puzzle game made in 48 hours.
That's great, Calvin. Did you get through all of your goals for the challenge?
Oh, not even close. But overall, I'm happy with what I made. Let me show you.
Is there supposed to be music or...
Nah, I ran out of time. Didn't get around to adding music.
Didn't you want to add, like, multiple maps or arenas?
Yeah, I didn't do that. But all the match settings kind of serve the multiple maps goal. This way you can tailor how the game plays to your liking.
Calvin, this is not 3D.
Okay, so I massively deviated from my goals and plans. When I got around to coming up with the game after making the menu, I remembered a lot of my previous game jams, and how a lot of the time, sloppiness came from wonky physics and controls. So, instead of making a 3D game where you move around an environment, I thought it'd be best to make a game that doesn't rely on a game engine's physics system. So, I made a knockoff of the game Dr. Mario. Drop and rotate capsules made of 2 colored pieces, match 4 more colored pieces to clear them, clear all the special cells. The controls and gameplay were already figured out, so I could just focus on learning how to best structure a Godot engine game. Yeah, I'm dropping the pronunciation gimmick. Internally, all of these grids are just made up of lists of data that I manipulate. So I got to learn a lot about how to handle iteration and making custom data types. And I don't have to worry about physics. I also got to go really in depth with Godot's UI systems to make sure the puzzle boards would always look nice and rectangular regardless of how big they're displayed. I also got to make my game a bit more multiplayer friendly than the original. In my version, you can set how many lives players get, so you can keep playing even after you get knocked out. I also made it so you only attack other players when a combo clears out one of these attack cells. Combined with the win condition of making it so you win by scoring the most points, it means I avoid the problem some other puzzle games have, where playing well to win and playing aggressively to knock out other players are the same way of playing. Here, getting big points isn't the same as sending attacks. It's a small twist, and I'm not sure if it's the right twist to solve the problem, but I'm glad I tried it, and I hope I or someone else tries to push fixing the problem further in the future. Overall, I'm proud of this little game I made in a short amount of time.
Calvin, it took you over a month to make bland Dr. Mario without music.
I don't think it's that Wait, what? Yeah, okay. That took way longer than it should have. I am being honest, though. I only took 48 hours to make my Calvin jam. I have the 41 gigabytes of footage to prove it. But, like I said, they were non-consecutive. Meaning between an hour or two of coding, I was off doing other things, like errands, sleeping, working on other projects, or just living life. There were occasionally days I'd go without even opening the Godot engine. And it wasn't always like I didn't have time to work on it more. Often, I just didn't want to. It comes down to a few factors. 1. The problems would stress me out. Some days I'd make good progress on the game, but would just have to stop after a while because the code had grown so complex, or the next task seemed so massive that my brain was just fried. That led to a lot of naps. 2. Working on the game would mean it would become more complete and have less potential. When you start a new project, it can be anything. There's no limit for the potential of what the project could be. But as you start working on that project, it solidifies into what it will be, and that potential starts to wither. That's probably why I was fine spending so long in the menu, because while working on it, the game it is attached to could be anything. That anything could be great. But once I started coding in the puzzle board and the piece mechanics, well, now it will be a puzzle game. And frankly, reason 3, this wasn't a game I was enjoying making. I really enjoy the real Dr. Mario. It'll be very embarrassing if my first game on stream I just bomb out real right at the start. Remember that thing I said like 2 years? Yeah. I won't lie and say I didn't find joy throughout making mine. Lots of maniacal laughter was had whenever I hit play and things worked just how I wanted it to after hours of errors. But it was all in service of a game I probably wouldn't play if someone else made it. At the start of this challenge, I said I didn't want to set out to make my dream game. And in my mind, that was the safe, smart choice. Years ago, I watched a series of YouTube videos by the channel.
Warning, the following contains a reference to a non-Pensword Productions YouTube channel. Discussion in this episode of said channel will remain at the typical level of Pensword Adventures family friendliness and quality, but neither are guarantees for videos, shorts, or live streams on the referenced channel in the past or in perpetuity. This surface level content warning also applies to any and all creators on said referenced channel. This is a blanket statement for any and all future references to other YouTube channels. Not influenced by anything necessarily known about any given YouTube channel in particular, but instead a general caution given how YouTubers can be. Pensword Productions and all affiliates would like to simply cover our butts in case someone we talk about robs an entire European nation or something like that. As always, viewer discretion is advised when seeking out cited material. Ask for parental permission if under 18.
Extra credits, talking about how you should approach making your first game. One of the big points I took to heart was that shooting for the dream game you've always wanted right out of the gate is a surefire way to burn yourself out before you even made a single game. In their own words, even if you're just amazing and throw your whole life into creating your game, you're not going to make a God of War or a Final Fantasy. Not even close, and especially not on your first attempt. It's solid advice. It may be a bit pessimistic, but it's honest, and has been proven time and time again. Many YouTubers in the game dev sphere do that thing I joked about at the beginning, making a video saying, "I'm making my dream game." And 4 to 5 years later, they have either finally released a pretty decent game, or have abandoned the game entirely. Or they pull a Danny and release multiple games while working on their first full game, 2 of which become mild viral sensations, and still don't finish their first game, and disappear from YouTube. Miss you, Danny. Hope you're doing well. Anyway, all that is why I didn't set out to make a game I was more interested in. But I can see now why going for those ideas that excite you as a developer can be beneficial. If you're excited about the thing you're working on, it'll motivate you to keep working on it and to make it great. Perhaps I should have gone for something bolder for my first game, in quotes. Because as is, this feels more like any of my lousy game jam entries with maybe slightly more polish. A disposable tech demo and not something to play with friends over and over again.
Oh, don't be so hard on yourself. I thought it was pretty fun.
Yeah, it wasn't anything crazy special, but you still made it.
I did, didn't I? And you know what? My next game is going to be even better.
Next game?
No, wait.
Okay, just to get this out of the way now, I'm not going to do this challenge again, especially right now.
Thank gosh.
Disappearing for a month to work on one project is not sustainable or healthy for this series or me. So, any future to game development will be more dispersed throughout my free time and not at the detriment of the series. Sorry again about that. But when I do get around to making a game again, what should I learn from this experience to make something better? Well, for one, I think a lot of my menu and system code could be reused with a little cleanup. I can take maybe a day to duplicate the Calvin Jam project, strip out the puzzle game, and have that menu template I've always wanted since my Unity engine days. It could use a few extra features like scrolling options and actual video settings besides telling you what the aspect ratio is and featuring a button that does nothing. But I'm kind of already excited to make that. That's because one thing I learned from this experience was how much I loved making little tools and background features that don't necessarily show up in game, but help me with making things. Another thing I will do next time is refactor. Refactoring is all about going back through old code and cleaning it up or straight up rewriting it to better fit your current systems. With my Calvin Jam, I ended up having 3 invisible lists for pieces because each one was made in a slightly different way to work with slightly different pieces. In the final game, we have a list for the board, a list for the piece you're moving, and a list for the garbage. I should have refactored at some point to make it all work on one list, or at least improve the readability because gosh, this is a lot. And the last big thing to do next time is to just be more ambitious. It will not be the end-all be-all game I've always wanted, but it should at least be a game I would want to play with friends more than the one time I played a show I made something, you know? Now, I'm about to say the phrase, I have a lot of ideas for a game. I will hate saying it. Most everyone has ideas. Ideas are nothing. Execution of ideas matter, not having ideas in general. Never trust anyone who says they want to be a game developer because they have a lot of ideas for a game. I have a lot of ideas for a game, but not all of them are grand, will take a team of hundreds to actually succeed ideas. Some of my ideas I think are pretty feasible for where my skills are now, or within struggle distance. I should strive to go a bit more outside my comfort zone next time. Try to innovate and have my artistic voice come out through my game design ideas, not just regurgitate what others have already figured out. It'll make something better and make something I will want to work on. But that's for next time. For today, I made a game called Calvin Jam. I will try to put it online for others to play, along with a slightly patched version I made after my time limit that fixes minor things, like the game crashing if you play single player, or the player numbers being wrong during gameplay, or the rankings at the end of the game being wrong, or trapping the losing player's soul inside the game, or the calculation for the winner being wrong in some modes. I'll get those major bugs fixed before release. The thing is, I don't know where the game will be, or if it'll be in the same place 10 years from now. So, if you're watching this episode somewhere that has a description, the link to my game and how to download it will be in that description. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope in the future it will seem like the humble beginning to a grand game development journey I've taken. So, ladies, gentlemen, everyone in between and beyond, we hope you had a great time with us today aboard the canvas. And we hope that you'll join us next time for another pen sword adventure. Go and make mightier, everyone.
Aren't you forgetting something, Calvin?
Oh, right.
I win.
Yeah, I figured.